Hello, this is Mike from Cornerstone. I want to thank you for joining me for another moment. If you look at the anchor graphic up here, I said you might be asking yourself the question, what in the world do spiderwebs and nose hair trimmers have to do with each other? Well, to me, it makes perfect sense. Mostly because, number one, I know the sender, and number two, I understood the perspective of the message that came from that particular sender. And the sender of that, and I have to play the cue card one more time, is another one of my granddaughters. This is Brenna. Brenna's name means raven hair beauty, and she does live up to her name. And so this really starts out when Brenna was small. Actually, Brenna and her mother lived with us for a while, and so we spent a lot of time together, got to know each other real well. And one summer evening, Brenna and I were sitting out on the deck, and she was sitting on my lap, and we were doing typical Poppy granddaughter things. We were the geese were in the lake and they were making all kinds of noise. We were looking at the birds. We were watching the squirrels, listening to the dogs bark. We were talking about her ABCs and can she count to 100, and we were giggling and tickling each other, and it was just a great time, you know, just grandfather and granddaughter. And all of a sudden, Brenna went quiet. I mean, she went silent, and that's not Brenna, okay? So I stopped for a second, and it just felt that little awkwardness, and I turned around and I said, Brenna, is everything okay? And she's looking at me like this. I go, Brenna, what's wrong? She goes, Poppy, you have spider webs up your nose. Well, when I got done laughing, I knew exactly what I needed to do. I need to go upstairs and remedy the situation with my nose hair trimmers. You see, from her perspective, okay, spider webs are the exact same color as Poppy's hair, and spiders live in dark places. So she saw spider webs up my nose. That was an incredible moment, and I learned a lot about quality communications just from that particular moment. And that really gets down to what quality communications are. Quality communications demands perspective. If you don't have somebody else's perspective, then you're going to have a hard time communicating. If they don't understand your perspective, they're going to have a hard time hearing what you have to say. Now, quality communications will demand perspective, okay? Sometimes, folks, perspective requires questioning. And there's times when I'm in a conversation, I don't quite get what they're saying. I need to say, I don't understand where you're coming from. Can you help me a little bit so I can better understand you? Or you may have to look and tell that they're not getting it. I remember as a teacher, I get up there. I mean, one of the things that I do as a teacher, I scan my students, and you can tell the ones who are getting it, those aren't getting it, and I have to adjust what I'm saying so that that particular student gets it, okay? So, yeah, quality communications demands perspective. Perspective sometimes requires questioning, okay? Now, I want to say, well, I'm going to add one more thing to this. Questioning demands humility. If I come across arrogant with my questions, they're going to shut down. I've got no quality communications. I need to be humble in how I ask my questions. Remember, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So this week, as you're going out and you're practicing your leadership and you're working with your teams, or you're working with your teenage kids, or whatever it is, or you have to communicate, make it a point to understand their perspective on the conversation. Make sure you provide enough context so that they get what you're trying to say. And if you don't get them, ask the question and be humble about it. And you'll find that you're going to meet in the middle a whole lot more than what you're used to. Thanks again for joining me for this week's moment. I hope you have a blessed week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.